having a difference of opinion is what makes a strong national executive board, in my opinion. I don't want to be surrounded by yes persons that are going to be in a room. We should be challenging each other. We should be finding ways to operate. Rich will answer a question, but you have to specifically ask the very direct question, because otherwise, and it feels like a gotcha game back and forth. What questions do you have for me? Well, what's going on? Well, I'll answer specific questions about it. That's when you know there's no trust and gamesmanship being played, clearly going in the wrong direction.
The other leaders have had to find ways to work around the poor leadership and still deliver to this union, because that's what we signed up to do.
This is the largest moment of this campaign. Everything else leading up to it is that the very essence of what I said earlier, is the actual campaigning part. This is the part where we get to encourage members to use their voice, and that's something we encourage every single one of you to do.
We don't have to wait until 2026, and in fact, we shouldn't wait until 2026. The crunch that everyone's feeling can't wait for 2 years, and anybody who's saying you should wait for 2 years, what do they plan to do in that 2-year time? There's multipliers that we haven't approached the agency about that we absolutely should. Looking at our Class Delta airspace, overall, across the board controller incentive pay. But we need money in our pockets so that we can live the lives that we've come to expect and keep up with the economy. Having longevity bonuses for those who decide to stay at a facility or those who are stuck at a facility. Looking at the 1.6 and changing that. All of these things can be done by MOU. And in fact, most of them have been done by MOU in the past. When we signed the CBA in 2016, we also signed an Appendix A MOU, the complexity factor and how you get your FPL level at your particular facility. And specific to en route is right now you get 0.50 for every VFR. You would get 1.0 for every VFR if the recommendations that were made by the MVT, both NACA and the agency, were actually adopted. There was a great opportunity to pivot and say, if you can't fund Abacus, well, then let's implement these 12 recommendations that we have. It's gold. And this is not something that affects some of the members. Those 12 recommendations affect every single member. While someone is running on the campaign of Fix My Pay, Fix My F and Pay, and is the administrator of the MVT. He should have been fixing your F and Pay. Before him, Rich was the MVT administrator guard, and they both failed us.
Going out and visiting all of the different facilities is where the ideas come from. If we're going to be working such high overtime, it go towards our high 3 premiums like Saturday pay.
Let's get rid of AG pay.
And you start becoming the union of no. Administrators, counterparts, industry, others are going to start trying to find ways to go around our union. Engaging with the administrator on the way that we operate, just the personal engagement, a level of reasonable with one another, but setting clear expectations on what we as a union are here to do, how we're going to be invested, and that anything going around us, or like you said, imposing, is going to put the agency's agenda at risk, because we have rights and they won't be stomped on. We're not going to sit back and be quiet as a union and watch somebody maneuver around. If you work to make each other successful, that's what ultimately benefits the membership.
The imposition of the fatigue that we were able to successfully, the leadership of Dean and using our capital to beat that back for the time being. But when we had really good leadership that stayed engaged and attached to their counterpart and set the example to show that we'll fix problems, not create them, we've not been imposed on. We were under the leadership of Paul and Trish. We didn't get imposed on. We had Sleepgate back in 2013. There was no imposition. When we had the midnight shift that was made famous at Las Vegas, never were we imposed on that the first 2 hours of the mid would require 2 people. It was negotiated. We went through a process. The agency wants to be in a collaborative relationship because we've shown and demonstrated how much we get out of that. You don't show them that you're a viable partner, they're going to go back to what they know, which is command and control. And we can't allow that, because those impositions, they don't just affect our egos, they don't make us look bad, they affect our members.
By re-engaging in like-type facility swaps. Take the person out of the higher place, move them to the lower staff facility. Once they achieve X certification, that we would work, and then that other person would be on a 6-month release. And once they achieve that certification, to go to the other facility. We do start doing targeted moves behind them. But those who want to go to a 9 and below and that are in a 4 through 7, There's someone out of the academy today, likely at a facility that one of our members wants to go to. So why would we not give that credit and benefit to our members first? So we have to brief our fac reps so they're prepared to answer the questions, and then we need to ensure that our members know, make sure your message is getting out there and not letting the negativity or the misinformation swirl, because it'll fill up a room in an instant. Being on this NEB for the last 2.5 years, there's been very little worked as going out and speaking together. It's if you want, or your RVP should know, or to pass the message. We have to communicate and work together.
Jim Marinetti, Miami Tower and Tracon, Southern Regional Vice President, retired. So just a little bit of history pertaining to the topic at hand, because I was there. I am partially responsible for it. The last board made a decision at some point, at an NEB meeting, as we were talking about elections, and apparently we got a little bit too much into our own egos. And ultimately we said we would support Rich Santa in his election for president. Now, because of a unanimous support of a NEB coming out, in essence, we put our collective thumbs on the scale. And no one ran against Rich, and he won through acclamation. We supported him based on potential. And ultimately, and it didn't take too long when the new board took over, and I was a part of that board too, the potential did not come to fruition, obviously, which is why over half of the RVPs from the last board support Nick Daniels and Daniels-Haltom. We made a mistake. I watched Rich try to adjust into a position simply that he wasn't ready for. A lack of empathy, a lack of prudence in decision-making, and ultimately a lack of competence when it came to things like our contract, our Constitution, things that we continually had to correct. And when it comes to Mick Devine, someone who was a dear friend of mine, who had actually supported me for various positions in the past, he was very quiet for 2 terms. Very quiet. None of the things that he has brought up in his various videos did he ever bring up on either of the 2 terms that he and I sat on the NEB together. But all of a sudden, it's campaign season. Not only did the last 2 terms bother him, he wants to go all the way back to 1998 and reclass in a 2011 MOU and start tearing apart at Paul Rinaldi's legacy, or Trish Gilbert, or Dean Iacopelli, or Phil Barbarello, or John Carr, pillars of this union. The foundation by which is allowed every person on this call right now to be able to stand up for what we have today. So for Nick and Jamal, I've seen them both grow. I grew up with them. Nick, when I was the RVP, and when I was the fac rep at Miami, he was doing stuff at Addison Tower, pilot fly-ins and things like that. He goes to Fort Worth Center, becomes a fac rep. I'm the RVP in the Southern region. The work ethic is second to none. Never have I heard him say I. It's all about, what do we need? Who do we need to get involved in this, that, or the other thing? I was on the National Training Committee with Nick and Jamal. Again, the National Training Committee, 13 members on that committee, big committee, a lot of moving parts, a lot of type A personalities. They make it look effortless, and it's never about them. And I was the fac rep at Miami Tower and Tracon when Jamal was just a punk controller at Tamiami Tower, asking one question after the other. Good Lord, it's like, dude, man, plug in, plug out. It's not. Then he went to Vegas, became a fac rep, and I watched him grow. He's done such an amazing job as a training rep. And I'll tell you, Jamal and I have had words from time to time. We've had robust debate, not just in meetings, but on the side. We all do from time to time. We don't always agree. I disagreed with something Nick was doing about 4 days ago. We talked through it, and ultimately, it was his decision. Like, whatever you want, I got you. We got to that point. Same thing with Jamal. Robust debate doesn't mean we don't like each other. We're coming from different angles. It's never been about them. I would strongly urge all of you, if you haven't made your decision yet, call Nick, call Jamal, go to their website, ask questions right now. They'll tell you the truth. You may not like the truth, but it will be the truth. And that is the least you can expect from your leaders.
But it shouldn't be, well, you're my friend, or you'll be a loyalist, so therefore you get the position. The positions, all of these positions are too important to our union and to the future of the national airspace system to play games with. So it's going to be the right person for the right reason. It'll be transparent. We'll explain to the membership why the person was chosen, and we'll do the service of explaining to those who didn't get chosen why.
When you know as a leader that there is an issue that's out there, you run towards it.
If an administration came in that was unfavorable to us, you could start alerting your membership to the fact that we are proposing MOUs. And if every single MOU is declined or we can't make progress, it's going to give you an indication of how it would look to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement. If the executive orders as previously written were enacted, at the moment we open our CBA, it would go down to 48 articles. This would strip us down to a place we've never been. But it's a reality that may face us, and we have to let the membership know. There's no fear of negotiation. It's just the reality of what a negotiation looks like in a federal labor union facing potential of executive orders.
If there's no executive orders, and ready to negotiate in 2026. Full-term negotiation, yes. When you cast that ballot, cast it for the union that you want. And when you talk to somebody else, ensure when they cast that ballot, they're casting it for the union they want.